Latest data obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria shows the Nigeria's external reserves fell by $63.62 million in the month of January this year. That data reveals that the external reserves stood at $37.08 billion as at December 30, 2022, and fell to $37.01 billion at the end of January 30, 2023. Recall that the reserves fell by $3.43 billion in 2022 after dropping from $40.52 billion as at the end of December 31st, 2021. Analyst states that foreign investors will remain on the sidelines given the lack of FX reforms, higher global interest rates, and weak macroeconomic narratives. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, reveals that the federal government spent 41% of its revenue generated in 2022 to service its 44.06 trillion naira debt and extended the 2022 budget implementation by 3 months ending March 2023 over the weak revenue performance last year. Speaking at the ministerial briefing in Abuja, she also forced the recent downgrade of Nigeria's credit ratings by Moody's Investors Service, a US-based rates agency, from B3 to CAA1. Despite increase in non-oil revenue, 2022 budget projected 18.1 trillion naira spending, out of which 8.17 trillion naira deficit was sourced through domestic borrowing. The federal government earned significant revenue of $18 billion from non-oil exports such as urea, fertilizer, ginger, and sesame between 2015 and 2022. Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Mr. Adeniyi Adebayo, disclosed this at the 21st edition of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration scorecard series in Abuja. Mr. Adebayo states that Nigeria recorded a growth rate of $3.57 billion in 2022, $3.45 billion in 2021. In 2020, the country earned $2.21 billion, while $1.87 billion was earned in 2019. He reveals that urea fertilizer is the largest non-oil selling point for the country, followed by ginger and sesame, which are in high demand in Europe. The minister urged Nigerians to explore the opportunities and market more of its products. Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission has assured investors that the conduct of the Nigerian gas flare commercialization program will be fair, transparent, and competitive. The Commission's chief executive made this known at the Nigerian Gas Flare Commercialization Program Bidders Conference and Investors Forum in Abuja. He says the commercialization program will also help in value optimization. Helen Osamide Akins reports.
The World Bank in 2021 ranked Nigeria 7th on the list of top 10 countries worldwide involved in gas flaring. As part of efforts to implement the Petroleum Industry Act on gas flaring, the federal government came up with the gas flare commercialization program in 2016. Today, it has embarked on the process of commercializing it. The Commission is optimistic that commercialization will help largely in reducing gas flaring in the country and assures investors of the seamless process.
So what you are witnessing is the relaunch of the program, especially in view of the premium that importance we place on the program. So the implementation, has started. Today, what you're having as the bidders conference that is entering the commercial stage.
Flare level today is at 9% of what we produce. So, and our daily production is around 7.5 to 8 BCA per day. So, if we are taking 9-10% of that off the market, then off the table, then exactly you could basically reduce the number of volume that we're going to put in place.
This Bidders Conference and Investors Forum is to bring to the knowledge of investors the rudiments of the process, even as the bidding commences.
As bidders, you will have the opportunity to pry and list data at the end of this process. In fact, immediately after this conference, the data room will be opened and you're able to actually leverage on the data room to know more about the composition and the components and volumes of particular flare sites that you are interested in.
We have like 40 flare sites, and they are all spread across different terrains, land, swamp, shallow offshore. Besides, they also have different sizes.
Gas flaring is the term used to describe burning off of gas which comes out of the ground while drilling for oil. Ending gas flaring in Nigeria will lead to an increase in revenue generation, infrastructure development, and power supply. It would also support thousands of jobs and businesses, improve health conditions in the oil-producing areas. Helen Osamede Akins, TVC News, Abuja.
Asian shares turned lower and the dollar regained some of its footings today as disappointing earnings from the U.S. tech giants undermined sentiment ahead of a key U.S. non-farm payroll report. Futures market is still favored by another 25 basis points hike from the Fed as its March policy meeting, which might be the end of its current hardening cycle. MSCI's broadest index of Asian Pacific shares outside of Japan is 0.5% today, dragged down by a 0.9% slump in Chinese blue chips and a 1.2% tumble in Hong Kong Hang Seng Index. Japan's Nikkei outperformed, rising 0.6%, while S&P 500 futures slid 0.5%. Nasdaq futures fell 1.4% today. As soaring energy prices in the wake of a Ukraine war pushed up the cost of imports, Germany's much vaunted trade surplus shrank in 2022. According to the Federal Statistics Agency, detailed values of export goods rose to 1.56 trillion euros, that's about $1.7 trillion, 14% increase compared to a year earlier, while imports rose by more than 24% to 1.48 trillion euros, resulting in a trade surplus of 76 billion euros. This is the lowest surplus since 2000, and it is down by more than half compared with last year's 173.3 billion euros. The agency added that it is the fifth consecutive year that trade surplus has narrowed. Well, in response to soaring inflation in Argentina, the country's central bank has issued a new 2,000 naira peso banknote. The new note worth $11, while 1,000 peso notes $2.70 on the alternative markets. Compared to the current currency, which was introduced in 1992, value pegged at $1. This is after consumer prices index jumped in December by almost 95% in 12 months, the fastest pace of inflation since 1991. According to the Apex Bank, the new note will commemorate the development of science and medicine in Argentina, although it is not clear when the note will enter circulation. Crude oil prices eased today, with major benchmarks headed for their second straight week of losses, as the market awaited future signs of fuel demand recovery in China to offset looming slumps in other major economies. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude slid today to sell at $75.36 with a downward price margin of 0.69%. Brent crude futures also experienced a price decline of 0.65%, selling at $81.64 per barrel. Bonny Light sells at $82.12 per barrel, with a downward price review of 2.74%. And for the OPEC basket, crude oil dealers are offering $82.82, and it's up 1.06%.